Basically, OrgVue is a org modeling. We're really not an analytics platform. It's really a modeling for operating model. But if you want to know more about us, go here. All right. What I really would like to do is I spend quite a bit of time in the market, and what I wanted to share with you, because there's a lot of. Are there any corporate folks here that are doing analytics or? Okay. Well, this will be kind of. Okay. So if you're putting together an analytics group, so prior to me joining Concentra 3 years ago, I was a partner level at Deloitte in their workforce analytics, one of their national leaders. Spent a lot of time in how to help companies put together a analytics capability in the workforce space. And one of the things that I've seen, and I'll be interested in your perspective here, is that a lot of the analytics teams today are still very much stuck in that reporting area. And it's a real challenge of how do I get out of that? And how do I become more strategic, and how do we do that, beyond the technologies? So what I wanted to share with you, this is absolutely ringing a bell in the marketplace with some really, big customers who are solving some big complex problems. And it's this concept that, what FP&A is to finance, OP&A is to HR. And what I mean by that is, what's going on today is the concept of organizational planning and and analysis. FP&A is a well-established part of the business. I think they get about 25% of the finance budget to be able to run that organization. It is highly valued throughout the business. Yet, people analytics, workforce analytics, I think gets about 3% of the HR budget. It has not met that kind of level of success within the business. We believe strongly that if you take that same strategy of building an OP&A environment, you have the ability to really become very strategic. And what we're seeing with our clients is they're taking the reporting piece, moving that into the operation sides of HR, and then they're creating an OP&A environment and this becomes a strategic play. So an example, the types of stuff that go on in the strategic area. And the key here is forward-looking. Reporting tends to be looking backwards. Strategically, you're looking forward, right? So the types of things that go on here is org design, very strategic. What's my operating model? How do I look at that operating model and create the kind of efficiencies and effectiveness, for a business, particularly a growing business? The other piece here is workforce planning and position management. A lot of people have been trying to do workforce planning over the years. I've probably pursued this over the last 15 to 20 years. I have not seen one technology yet that does end-to-end workforce planning. If anybody has one and it does it truly, let me know. I can tell you that OrgVue does a piece of it, but it doesn't do it end-to-end. Very complex, but very strategic capability within the business. And right now, a very immature capability within the corporation. Talent planning, succession, analytics, predictive, looking at organizational operating performance. So it's really about managing risk. It's about managing money as it goes towards, labor or the workforce. So these areas are really becoming a lot more strategic. Putting together the components. Again, I would tell you OrgVue is a piece of that component. It's not the whole piece, but these allow you to do this kind of forward-looking things. So when I say this is ringing a bell, so I'll give you an example. We do a lot of work with Lululemon up in Vancouver. It is a high-growth company. They are doing tremendous, and this is public information. They are knocking it dead right now on Wall Street. But what's interesting is their people leader, Susan, has actually now taken and created an OP&A function within their business. They are now forming that organization and using, again, OrgVue in this case plays a foundational piece to that, but they're actually putting that forward and now starting to get into that more strategic area. And there's other clients that we're dealing with who are now starting to think about, how do I put this together? How do I elevate the analytics conversation? How do I get senior teams to actually buy into the value of this? And again, this has been a long journey. We've all been at people analytics, workforce, pick your words. but it's been, a long, run. And getting to that more strategic area has been a challenge. So the ability to think like an FP&A organization, and what's happening in our clients is getting finance and HR to come together is hard. But when you do it, it becomes very powerful. So an example, we're talking with a client right now about organizing this. They just had a new FP&A person come in. And the minute that person heard that they're starting to move forward with an OP&A, they're like, let's get together. Because there's data that you actually have in HR that finance doesn't have. And the ability to bring that information to them in a structured way as an OP&A environment, they understand what that means. So this has really become, and again, I could go through OrgVue and go through all those pieces, go to the website to see that. But this is something that is absolutely, getting the attention of the organization and giving a strategic construction to build out an analytics capability and an analytics brand. So, just take a minute. You're in the fight. You're in the war every day. Is this something that resonates? I mean, do you see this type of stuff within your organization? And
HR and finance have a really hard time sharing information.
So we end up having two siloed approach. We're spending money twice, right? We're having competing data sets. And again, a lot of it has to do with how you operate. So our argument is create a better operating model. In this case, put FP&A and OP&A together, or at least relate it. And what this is doing now is breaking down some of those barriers and allowing not just the data to flow, but the people to work together. So it's really a concept of operating model. And of course, OrgVue is an operating model platform, so it's like we should be, be smart about that process. But this is really becoming an effective way to break down those walls. And it's bringing, I always say when I see OrgVue being used by finance and HR together, because it's common data that they can share, and it's the ability to do that. And then in this kind of construction, they're really now starting to come together in very powerful ways.
Does finance at the table?
Many times, yeah. And actually what we look for is the maturity of, many times we'll start with a client and they're very, separate. They're not going to do it. But what we see is with this kind of construction and with the data that gets centralized, they're now starting to collaborate more. And that's when I know, in this case, where OrgVue is being used, that we're seeing the highest value. And it really makes it, think about it. Finance is in the same position that you all are. They basically need to manage money, right? They need to manage risk, and they need to manage people. And these are the components that you can bring together. And again, I've not seen one technology that goes end to end. So I would tell you that our clients are doing, more of a component approach. I'll give you an example in workforce planning. One thing that OrgVue does quite well is on the supply side. OrgVue knows exactly who you are, where you sit, how much you get paid, your relationship, the hierarchy, all of those pieces. That's supply. But on the other side of the fence is really demand forecasting. So we partner with groups like Anaplan. Anaplan is a demand forecasting engine that was built for the finance department, right? It's putting those components together has allowed us and our clients to start now thinking about how do I actually look out 5 years, right? Hard to do. At the same time, Anaplan doesn't do the supply side. They do it from a high level, but they don't have the ability to look at a hierarchy. They're not architected for that. So again, workforce planning is one of the most complex things that I've seen in the business, and it's not just because it's hard to get the data, it's because it's hard, everybody owns it. If you think about it, in workforce planning, finance owns a piece, HR owns a piece, the operators own a piece. So it's how do you get people to come together on that? So this concept of OP&A allows a construction for you to bring together these processes, these organizations, consolidate that information, use your components to then drive that kind of results. And what we're seeing is this is elevating the HR organization, the senior leader, but it's also expanding the brand of the analytics team, as well as the OD team, who all play an important role here. So again, going into OrgVue right now, please go to the website and do that and look at that. But what I wanted to share with you here is just, this is ringing a bell. And I'd be curious as you all are going through these processes, of building an analytics capability. Where are you in that process? So if I actually go one more, and this is from my gang in the back here, but we recently put out a self-assessment around an analytics, and we would encourage you to go in and look at where you are on the maturity curve. I think there's some provocative questions, and again, it's a self-assessment. You do it yourself. You'll get information right there for yourself, but it'll give you an idea of where that maturity is. And as you move from a reporting capability to a more mature analytics capability within that OP&A environment, this could kind of help you as you go around that path. So David, I think am I close on my minutes? Okay, all right. So let me stop there. And again, what I wanted to do is just share, again, I'm heavily in the market. These are the things that I'm seeing. And over the last 10, 15 years, it's been a struggle, in the analytics space, to be honest. I don't think we've gotten to the value. Dave, you're out there all the time. So, I would assume that you kind of feel the same way. You've seen a lot of struggle along the way. So this is a piece of way that, we believe companies can actually elevate the strategic conversation, get HR more at those tables by bringing, forward-looking data that manages risk, that manages money, instead of just the basic HR kind of stuff that's out there. Any questions? Ring a bell on the corporate side?
Well, I was just thinking about HR business partners.
Yeah, and again, as you continue to build and invest in a capability, how do you organize it in a way so that you can maximize that capability and then maximize the assets, and the funding? Because one of the challenges is, how do I fund this? What we're learning is, FP&A has done a great job at that. They get tons of funding because they see strategic value. So guys, let's take that story and bring it into HR and get actually finance is participating in it with clients. So it's a smart way to go about, how do I accelerate the building of this brand? How do I accelerate? Because you don't want to try to just be in a silo. That's been my other observation. So many analytics teams on the HR side end up in these silos, and they're not getting to the big problems. And some of it's our own fault because we're not talking about money. We're not talking about, we're doing things that are not of interest to the whole business. FP&A does that well. So does OP&A. All right?
Russ, thank you very much
Okay.
indeed.
Yep.